I said it's like a Rorschach trying to follow the Fed. People see different things. We had a economist who's really smart and really good on earlier, Kelsey Barrow, said inflation's been coming down faster than the Fed thinks. Right. That's going to continue. Oil prices up where they are can be deflationary because it causes people to realize, oh, my God, I just filled my tank. I don't have anything left over. Shelter's coming down. We've gone from 300,000 jobs a month to 150,000. Last rate hike is in, it's done, and they will cut probably next year. You probably don't agree with any of that, do you?
No, I mean, it's a reasonable scenario. I'm just not sure it's very likely.
Well, what does she see? What do you see that makes you think differently?
We have a lot of still enormous fiscal stimulus in the economy. That's a plus and a minus. The minus is it runs up the carrying costs. You know, Joe, the last 11 months, we've been incurring $644 billion in debt payments, interest payments. Defense budget, $692 billion. This is growing. We have $33 trillion in federal debt now.
I know.
So why don't you, simple math, if you say the average cost to carry is going to be 5% between the short and the 10-year, you can do the math. That's a lot of interest being carried. So the stimulus comes from that. The problem is, and it's inflationary in many ways, pumps up the economy, but we're spending a fortune on interest, $2 billion a day on interest. The good thing is we're in better shape than everybody else, so money's still coming into the United States. If you look at the DXY, which is heavily euro-oriented, it's trading at 105. That's still a strong dollar. So there's some very attractive things about what we are doing, even though we're running up these huge deficits. We have an irresponsible fiscal policy, Congress that is dysfunctional, et cetera, et cetera. We're still the best place to be. Of course, within the United States, Texas is the best place to be, but we won't talk about that.
I see these crazy polls that say Texas is dead last because of, I don't know. It depends on what questions you put in the polls.
Well, I can tell you, the Dallas Fed just released some data.
You don't educate your kids or something? You don't spend any money? You've heard all the...
well, nobody educates their kids anymore.
We have Randy Weingarten on it. I don't know what to ask her.
But at every single
Is any of the criticism warranted for teachers' unions, Andrew? Can we ask her that? I mean, why is there so much animus directed at teachers' unions, and why are our kids? Can we ask her that, or I don't know.
I think we can absolutely ask her that, and I think the answer is that the results don't. Unfortunately, right. The result it's very result oriented, and you can see those results.
And they're not.
And
good.
By the way, and they're not good. On the other end, I think one of the reasons we're having her on is to talk about the movement towards labor in this country,
that is why,
and what you're looking at with the UAW. By the way, the UAW. Their results, you can look at the results. They come out quarterly. It's very clear what the results of their work is. So
we're still playing catch up, Joe, to the fact that people are earning less than the inflation rate. And now they're making up for that in spades.
Which adds to the inflation rate.
It's not just which adds to the inflation rate. It's not just the union. There are only 10% of our workers in America are unionized.
Is that back to 10? I thought it was 7 or
7% in the private sector.
Private sector. Okay.
So, but we're seeing it in small, medium-sized. But look at the NFIB data and the surveys. They're still feeling that kind of pressure, and they're having trouble finding skilled workers. That's where the economy.
So then
really
you see the inflation. Okay, so they're not going to be happy till there is a recession. Will there be a recession next year?
This is the most long predicted recession.
I know. No, now it's off the table, which means it's back on the table. Now people aren't expecting.
I think you have to give Powell and the Fed credit here. They made a mistake on the transitory inflation argument. Okay. They've corrected for that. The economy has not tanked. Everybody keeps saying it's going to tank, going to tank, going to tank. And inflation is coming down. The core rate is still high.
Inflation, maybe it was transitory. That's why it came down. Or did it come down because of what the Fed did?
It's only transitory because of the Fed.
Well, it depends on what your definition of your time frame is. Everything's transitory.
You and I are transitory.
Life is transitory.
Right.
I'm transitory. I won't be here forever.
Right.
Fortunately for you guys, but anyway.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But one other thing, Steve was mentioning Fed funds futures. They've never been right. Ever. So we spend a lot of time talking about Fed funds futures. It's never a good predictive mechanism.
What do you think it is?
Except for just before a meeting, maybe.
Right. What is?
I think you have to look, if you put remember, I'm a Texan, so
Yep.
you put a gun to my head, I would say you have to look at the employment data. That's the number. If I had to pick one variable.
Are you looking at the, when you say employment data, are you looking at the unemployment number? Are you looking at wages?
No. Well,
are you looking at a combination
the
of
dynamics, the quit ratio, and everything else in between? But
and what
if
would
you have
you
a
say,
job, you consume.
Right.
If
And what would you
consume,
say
drive the
those
US
things
economy.
portend right now?
Right now, we're in pretty healthy shape. People are still holding on. Big companies are laying people off. But if you look at, again, the small, medium-sized companies, the women and men that actually build our economy and create jobs, they're still holding on to their employees. You know, why? Because demand is still there, at least on the consumption side.
Right.
So we'll see. But once that gets released, they start laying people off. Then I think we begin to see a weakening of the economy.
And you think that's still a coming?
Haven't seen it yet.